Dead Again is a 1991 British-American romantic fantasy neo-noir mystery thriller film written by Scott Frank and directed by Kenneth Branagh. It stars Branagh and his then-wife Emma Thompson, and co-stars Andy Garcia, Derek Jacobi, Wayne Knight, and Robin Williams. Dead Again was a moderate box office success and was positively received by the majority of critics. For their work on the film, Derek Jacobi was nominated for a BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role, and Patrick Doyle, who composed the film's music, was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Original Score. Plot: a series of newspaper articles details the 1949 murder of pianist Margaret Strauss, who was stabbed with a pair of antique scissors during an apparent robbery. An anklet worth thousands of dollars is missing. Her husband, composer Roman Strauss, is found guilty of the crime and sentenced to death. Before his execution, Roman is visited by reporter Gray Baker. When asked if he killed Margaret, Roman leans in to whisper in Gray's ear. Baker does not reveal Roman's answer at the time. 40 years later, Mike Church, a private detective, is asked to investigate the identity of a woman who has appeared at the Catholic orphanage where Mike grew up. She has amnesia, is unable to speak, and suffers from violent nightmares. Mike takes her in and asks his friend, Pete Duggan, to publish her picture in the newspaper along with his contact information. Franklin Madsen, an antique dealer and hypnotist, approaches Church suggesting that hypnosis may help her recover her memories. Mike agrees. When the session is initially unsuccessful, Madsen suggests they experiment with past life regression. Mike is skeptical, but the woman suddenly is able to speak and begins detailing the lives of Margaret and Roman in the third person, from their courtship to their wedding day. When the session is over, she is still able to speak but still has amnesia. Madsen shows them copies of Life magazine from the time of the murder. Mike and the woman bear a striking resemblance to Roman and Margaret. Mike visits Cozy Carlyle, a disgraced psychiatrist. Cozy insists they continue to see Madsen, since delving into the problems between Margaret and Roman may help resolve the trauma that triggered the woman's memory loss. Mike nicknames the woman Grace, and begins to fall in love with her. After a romantic evening, a man named Doug appears and claims that Grace is his fiancée, Catherine. Mike discovers he is lying and unsuccessfully chases after him. Under hypnosis, Grace recalls that Roman, unable to finish his opera, is frustrated and in debt. He believes that Margaret is flirting with Gray Baker, whom she met on their wedding day. Margaret becomes frustrated when she cannot convince Roman that she is faithful. Margaret catches Frankie, the young son of their housekeeper, Inga, looking through her jewelry box. She asks Roman to dismiss Inga and Frankie. Roman refuses, claiming that they saved his life in Germany. Grace has a vision of Mike in the past standing over Margaret with a pair of scissors and becomes terrified, convinced he means to kill her. Mike is enraged and insists that he is not Roman and would never hurt Grace. When he accidentally calls her Margaret, he agrees to let Madsen regress him as well. Under hypnosis, Mike discovers he was actually Margaret in the past and Grace was Roman. Mike tries to explain this to Madsen and Grace, but Pete Duggan interrupts to announce that someone has identified Grace. Her name is actually Amanda, and she is an artist. Amanda, still afraid of Mike, accompanies Pete and Madsen to her apartment. Amanda's artwork reveals a recent obsession with scissors. Madsen gives her an old gun from his antique shop to protect herself from Mike. Mike visits Gray Baker, now old and living in a nursing home, and asks him about the secret that Roman whispered to him in 1950. Baker insists that Roman said nothing to him and only kissed him on the cheek. Gray is convinced that Roman did not kill his wife and urges Mike to find Inga, who would have known everything that happened in that house. Based on Baker's description, Mike realizes that Madsen is Frankie. Mike questions Inga, who explains that shortly before the murder she had confessed her love for Roman. Roman insisted that he loved only Margaret. Inga tried to explain her sorrow to Frankie, but he was unable to understand. Frankie blamed Margaret for his mother's unhappiness and killed her with the scissors. He stole her valuable anklet, a symbol of Roman's love for her. Roman stumbled upon the scene and was found later covered in his wife's blood and holding the murder weapon. After Roman's execution, Inga took Frankie to London to treat his stammer. From his tutor, Frankie learned about hypnotherapy and ultimately about past life regression. After moving back to Los Angeles, Frankie became convinced that Margaret's spirit would seek revenge. When he saw Amanda's picture in the paper, he knew she had finally returned. Inga apologizes for her past sins and refuses to protect Frankie any longer. She hands Mike the missing anklet. Mike loves to find Amanda. Madsen appears from the shadows and smothers Inga with a pillow. Mike finds Amanda's apartment to tell her the truth, but she is still terrified of him. She accidentally shoots Mike in the shoulder with Madsen's guns, and he falls unconscious. Madsen arrives and reveals his true identity. Amanda tries to shoot him, but the gun jams. Madsen knocks her out. He places the scissors he used to kill Margaret in Mike's hand and tries to make it look like Amanda committed suicide with the gun. As he stoops to pull the trigger, Mike stabs him in the leg with the scissors. In the ensuing struggle, Madsen is impaled on a sculpture of giant scissors and dies. The film ends some time later with Mike and Amanda in a passionate embrace. Cast: Kenneth Branagh as Mike Church, Roman Strauss, Emma Thompson as Amanda Sharp, Grace, Margaret Strauss, Andy Garcia as Gray Baker, Derek Jacobi as Franklin Madsen, Wayne Knight as Piccolo, Pete Duggan, Robin Williams as Dr. Cozy Carlyle, Hanish Igula as Inga, Campbell Scott as Doug, Joe Anderson as Sister Madeline, Richard Easton as Father Timothy, Gregor Hess as Frankie. Production: the movie was filmed entirely in color. After test screenings, it was decided to use black and white for the past sequences to help clear up audience confusion. The final frame, once the mystery is solved, fades from black and white to color. The negative of the final frame was flipped to match the present-day lovers to the doomed 1940s newlyweds they embodied, i.e., Margaret dissolves into Mike, and Roman dissolves into Grace. When the audience first meets Mike Church, he's seated in his car, which is parked on the wrong side of the street. While it may seem that this is because Branagh is from the United Kingdom, it is actually because behind him are a number of skyscrapers that he, as the director, wanted included in the background. In addition to the dual roles played by Branagh and Thompson, actress Joe Anderson and the film's composer Patrick Doyle both play small dual parts, appearing in the present-day and 1940s sequences. Branagh has said that at the time he made this film he was very interested in the technique of uninterrupted takes, and several can be seen throughout the movie. Also note sequences such as the first hypnosis sequence at the Laughing Duke, which features an extremely complicated camera shot in 360 degrees, which involved a great deal of precise timing and technical faculty. Branagh noted that this relatively short scene was shot perhaps 15 times, taking all day. According to the director's commentary on the DVD edition of the movie, the film has numerous in-jokes. For instance, a date scene in one of the newspaper clippings is actually Branagh's birthday, and Roman Strauss' prisoner number is the date of the Battle of Agincourt. Release: Dead Again was released on August 30, 1991, in the United States and October 25, 1991, in the United Kingdom. It was later entered into the 42nd Berlin International Film Festival in February 1992. Home media: the film was released on DVD on the 27th of June 2000 through Paramount Home Entertainment. The DVD special features include 2 audio commentaries and a theatrical trailer. Reception: critical response: Dead Again was well received by most critics. It currently holds an 82% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Roger Ebert, noted critic of the Chicago Sun-Times, gave the film a glowing 4-star review, drawing comparisons to the works of Orson Welles and Alfred Hitchcock, stating, "Dead Again is Kenneth Branagh once again demonstrating that he has a natural flair for bold theatrical gesture. If Henry V, the first film he directed and starred in, caused people to compare him to Olivier, Dead Again will inspire comparisons to Welles and Hitchcock, and the Olivier of Hitchcock's Rebecca. I do not suggest Branagh is already as great a director as Welles and Hitchcock, although he has a good start in that direction. What I mean is that his spirit, his daring, is in the same league. He is not interested in making timid movies." Noted online critic James Berardinelli also gave the film a 4-star review, praising Branagh's direction in all levels of the production, from the screenplay by Scott Frank to Patrick Doyle's score, stating, "Branagh has combined all of these cinematic elements into an achievement that rivals Hitchcock's best work and stands out as one of the most intriguing and memorable thrillers of the 1990s. Conversely, Peter Travers of Rolling Stone viewed the film negatively, praising some elements of Branagh's direction while criticizing neglect of the romance, saying, "In his efforts to crowd the screen with character and incident, Branagh cheats on the one element that might have given resonance to the mystery, the love story." Branagh and Thompson are sublime actors, but they never develop a convincing ardor as either couple. How could they when the director is so busy playing tricks? Dead Again isn't a disaster, merely a miscalculation from a prodigious talent who has forgotten that you squeeze the life out of romance when you don't give it space to breathe. Vincent Canby of the New York Times gave the film a lukewarm review, calling it a big, convoluted, entertainingly dizzy romantic mystery melodrama, and concluding, "Dead Again is eventually a lot simpler than it pretends to be." In this way, too, the film is faithful to its antecedents, while still being a lot of fun. Box office. Dead Again opened number 1 at the U.S. box office, earning $3,479,395 during its opening weekend, playing on 450 screens. It remained number 1 at the U.S. box office for 3 weeks and grossed over $38 million by the end of its theatrical run.